Thanks so much to everybody for coming this afternoon, evening, morning, depending on where you are in the world. We seem to get folks from all over for these user group events, which is just amazing. This is our 16th virtual Miro user group event. It's the mouthful, VMUGs for short. And we're so excited today to be sharing the People's Choice Award winner from the Miroverse. We have Jen Fox from Sesh, and she'll be telling us all about how the template came to be, what it can be used for, and answer all questions that you might have. And we'll get to a better introduction of her in just a second. My name is John White. I'm a management consultant from Calgary, Alberta, up in Canada. And my company, Improve, has been using Miro for over 3 years now. And something I say at the front end of every workshop, it's completely transformed the way I do my work. I help organizations to learn and implement continuous improvement strategies and build capability around team effectiveness by using a variety of assessments, all of which I have built within Miro and use with clients currently. So it's amazing to see how effective Miro can be to get everybody on the same page and determine where there can be pushing things forward as a team to get our work done. And as always with me tonight, I'm very pleased to have Annie McLeod. How's it going, Annie?
Really well, Jonathan. Thank you very much. I'm Annie McLeod. I'm a project management consultant and co-founder of the Project Management Game Board. And I'm in beautiful Kelowna, British Columbia in the Okanagan Valley. And I too, kind of as John says, I tell people that Miro is the sexiest software I've seen in 20 years. And considering the fact I started out in Card Punch in the 70s, that's a lot of history. So we've chosen Miro as a backbone for our project management game board. And yeah, we love it. And we particularly love hosting these events. We have a lot of fun and get to meet some great people. So to get us started, a couple of house rules is if you can just mute your mic while Jen is presenting. So we have a space on the board where we can, people can post questions and we'll get to that later in the presentation. We can either shout out those questions or put them on stickies. Another thing, our little safety moment, since you're at home, your fire exits and fire extinguishers are exactly where you have left them.
Mm-hmm. We always love to do a shout out, a call out to Natalie Loreno. She's Miro's community events coordinator. She's been around for getting everything going in this Miro community and done such an amazing job to build it. And we've seen it now spread on 4 different continents. I think, is that right, Natalie?
Also Australia, so 5.
Oh, there you go. So we're on 5 continents now with these user groups, and in so many cities, especially across North America, they're popping up all over the place. I think Cleveland is one of the next upcoming locations. So we don't need to go visit Cleveland. They can bring the Miro experience to us. Awesome. Yes. So nice to see you, Natalie. Thanks for everything that you do.
Oh, thank you. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for being here. If any of you on the call today are interested in learning more about the program or potentially also opening up a user group in your location, we're also opening a Kansas City one as well. I wanted to announce. Feel free to chat me or message me on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn is just my name, Natalie Loreno, and I'm happy to talk more. Thank you.
Absolutely. I think we could throw another plug in just for our user group events is that if anyone else in the crowd here feels they have something they'd love to showcase, then get in contact with Annie and myself, because we are always on the lookout for the next new best and biggest thing in Miro. And we love to showcase the amazing things that people are doing. It's I swear it's been about half of the great ideas I've had in Miro have stemmed from these kinds of events, because I learn what other people are doing and then I steal it for myself. And it's like, hey. In a nice way. No copyright. Okay, we'll move on. Annie, do you want to take us through the agenda, please?
Yeah, so really briefly, we've gone through some of the welcome. We're going to spend a couple of moments to just go through some pro tips in case some of the folks may not have used Miro extensively. And we have a small icebreaker to kind of get your fingers warmed up on your mouse. Then Jen's going to take us through a little bit about Sesh and the template that we've got in the Miroverse. We'll have some time for question and answer, and we've got a brief retrospective. We love to get feedback on how the session went and any ideas for future pieces and just some reference material of how to get in touch with community and some of those things. So shall we do the pro tips then, John?
Let's do it.
Okay, so we've got a couple of what we think are kind of key 101 Miro pieces that everybody needs to know to make the experience more enjoyable. And the king of all commands is undo. In that collaborative workspace, that's one of our favorite things. So you've got a variety of ways to do that undo, either Control Z or Command Z will get you back to where you were. Your Zoom, you've got a variety of ways to navigate in this infinite space. So if you're using a mouse, then the roller on your mouse is the most effective way to use that. If you're on a touch screen, you want to pinch with 2 fingers. And then you'll also see on the bottom right corner of your screen is you have a menu bar. So if it's hidden, it'll just be a percentage. To open it up, you just hover over that percentage and you'll see the plus minus to zoom in or zoom out. And also you see the mapping tool there too, if you want to go to a particular section in the board. Key thing to remember is to get the best out of your Miro experience, you want to be using Chrome or the Miro app. It can do some strange things in other browsers. Duplicate is another command that we use quite a bit. So Control or Command D, you're selecting. So you're using, if you're selecting an object, you're using that left click on your mouse to select objects, and then hold the Shift key and left click if you want to drag and select multiple objects. Adding text. So to add text to most objects and shapes, so you'll see later on we're going to be using some stickies. You do left click, select the object, and then double click to add text. And then last, from a navigation perspective, your pointer versus pan. So you see on your menu bar on the left-hand side, the very top, there is an arrow. And if that arrow is blue, then you're in pointers, so you can interact with everything on the board. And if you click on that, it will change to a pan or a hand motion. So whenever you're in the pan mode, you're not going to disturb anything on the board, but you need to be on your pointer when you want to interact with the board. That's our shortcuts for today.
Nice. Yeah, that's the basics. Remember that undo button. If you happen to do anything you don't want to do, undo and back we go. We like to throw in some icebreakers to our events just so that folks have a little bit of a chance to interact and learn a couple of these Miro skills that we've just let you know. So we have a super easy one today. We found 4 questions from Center Spring MD, and they're all related to the habits that we formed during COVID. And then we have an open-ended question because I think some of the habits that we've listed here on the screen are not so great habits. So hopefully not everybody's picked them up. I think I've picked them all up maybe. And then you can write. So what we'd like you to do is grab a dot. I'll pull everybody on the Miro board to me. Sorry if that's a little jarring. So grab a dot and throw it into the box you feel best represents your response for each of these 4 questions. And then for the last question, which is what is one good habit you've picked up? Okay, so feel free to continue to add there if you want to come back, revisit, add to your responses. It's always great to see. We usually take these icebreakers and post them up on LinkedIn and some social media so everyone can share in our wisdom gained. Okay, we're almost ready to move on. I was thinking earlier today that since we started these VMUG events, I've so very much enjoyed seeing new faces at each event. And also seeing the individuals that return for as many of these events as we can. I see at least 4 or 5 in this meeting now. So hello to all the familiar faces and to the new ones as well. And maybe it's just because we've been cooped up for over a year, but I was reflecting back on things, and I would say a big difference that I'm seeing is that it seems like in our post or during COVID world, people are just getting together as a community in a lot of ways, especially remotely. And they are collaborating better. And so like just over the past few weeks, I've had the pleasure to introduce Miro to some people who had never used it before. And then I've also had the opportunity to show a few folks who had been in getting into Miro a few new tricks and techniques, and just seeing the reactions of people when they discover this tool or discover what it's capable of is so exciting for me. And it's like taking one of my favorite movies of all time and then watching it with someone who's never seen it, because I like the look of wonder on their face as I go through things. And so I hope tonight as we go through this that everyone kind of has that feeling, and maybe Jen specifically will have that feeling, because yeah, the template she's about to share with us is just awesome. So Annie, why don't you introduce the fantastic Jen Fox for us?
Sure. Yep. And our speaker today is Jen Fox, and she is an imaginative and passionate product manager with 9+ years experience working in startups, ad tech companies, and agencies alike. Her extensive experience in sales, client services, operations, and now product management has awarded her indispensable collective of knowledge, which she finds key for successful product and technology development. Jen is also a certified Agile team facilitator, helping teams to collaborate, problem solve, and scale their Agile processes. Welcome, Jen, and congrats on your win.
Thank you so much, Jonathan and Annie, for having me here today. This is a great opportunity to represent our company and our team, and this like wonderful template that was not just a brainchild of mine, but really a collaborative effort of everybody on our team. So it really is a pleasure to be here. Thank you. Before we jump into the template, I think it will add some really good context if I talk a little bit about our team and some of our motivators and methodologies for how we work, because I truly believe this template is a product of how we work. So before the pandemic, we worked in a small little office and we were highly collaborative. We are a team that values transparency and trust and empathy, and we were able to get all of that being face-to-face. We could easily turn over to another team member and huddle on a problem together. And because we're all in the same room, we could sort of listen in and collaborate together and chime in where needed. But after the pandemic, we wanted to try to test and see if we could be remote and still hold the same level of transparency and collaboration. And that's where Miro came in. Nobody told me to say this, but Miro really is a very pivotal part of our process. A lot of the beginning parts of our ideation start in Miro. A nice piece of our product is built using Miro, and it's enabled us to create very incredible documentation. And the more and more that we dig into Miro, the more and more uses we find for it. And so we were remote for a while, and Corey, who's our Chief Technology and Science and Innovation Officer, he and I have worked together and have known each other for quite some time. And we have the same sort of visceral reaction when someone says, I need a roadmap, because usually you think about the traditional sort of Gantt chart template of a roadmap. And for what we needed, it didn't actually work. And so to kind of take a step back, we're an Agile team. We identify as an Agile team, but we're not married to any specific framework of Agile. In fact, our motto is just to do what works. We are what you would call Agile generalists. So if we like something that they're doing in extreme programming, we'll steal that and we'll make it work for us. We do the same thing for Kanban. We don't steal a lot of things from Scrum, maybe a little bit ceremonies and gatherings, but really for us, if our process is no longer providing us value or serving purpose for us, then we change it or we trash it and we find something better to do. And so in some conversations with the team about creating a roadmap, we just couldn't really bear putting a Gantt chart together. We are a team that really doesn't want to measure our projects by time, because we have to be able to adapt quickly to the market needs or our customer needs or the business needs. or even fundraising needs. And to try to measure everything and plan everything through time just really didn't serve a purpose for us. And that was the catalyst for building this template. So I'll take everyone to the next frame here. So our team is structured a bit differently. We're not vertically structured. There's not a lot of layers of management. So that enables all of our team to have a lot of ownership in the work that we do. And we find that when you have a lot of ownership, people are very invested. And so we all sort of align under these big business goals, things that are going to drive our company forward. We are a startup, and so time and money is something we cannot waste. And so our team has essentially two focuses. We've got the tech team, and we are the ones who are focusing on the product, and then the operations team, which manages more business operations. But everything that we do, even if they're different roles to play, everything kind of aligns up into these big product goals. Sure, those goals are broken out into separate initiatives, which could be multiple projects, which for products could be several epics, which are collections of stories and features, or for operations, it would be projects that are broken out into separate tasks that everybody sort of contributes to in order to get the project done. And we were finding some struggle in being able to uphold our transparency value when there's so many projects and so many initiatives going on, and not being able to have one single source of truth of where we were at in terms of, you know, all the things that are happening in our business. And so that's kind of where this template was born. We wanted to have a roadmap that had just enough information that stakeholders and members of the team could understand scope and effort and the complexity of working on this project. But we didn't want to have so much granularity that it was yet another backlog that I would have to manage as the product manager. And so that's where our template came from. Before I dive into the template, I did want to play a little game with you all. Similar to the icebreaker, you guys can grab a dot. I'd love to hear from you guys what challenges you face when it comes to road mapping and planning and product. If you don't see a challenge in the challenge box, and then there's something new that you want to add, feel free to add it to the sticky here. But yeah, I'll give everyone a quick minute to do so. So thank you for this feedback. This is great. I will make sure to talk to these points as I'm walking through the template. So this is an abridged example of how we are really using this template at Sesh for our product empath at the moment, and also for operations. So we built a 2-track roadmap, and we borrowed user story mapping, which is a really cool tool that product managers use to start to sort of map out a new feature or a new epic or a new flow. But essentially the way it works is you can set certain verticals or certain categories in the spine here is what we call it. And then the stickies you place below are all of those tasks or all of those pieces that you need to build in order to accomplish whatever that action is or whatever that goal is. And so the cool thing about using the grids as user story templates is, to go back to the point of sort of like changing priorities, is you can quickly just take this, grab it, move it into a cloud space or an icebox, and then sort of shift over whatever new epic is being reprioritized, or whatever new set is being reprioritized. And so that's some functionality that we really, really enjoy, because things change all the time for us, depending on, you know, customer needs, business needs, needing to raise funding, et cetera, et cetera. One also really cool feature I like is this idea of showing progress, almost like a progress bar, like we would see in like an app. And so what's really cool is when you sort of pan out, right? you can see, without getting too gritty into the details, you can see in the progress bar exactly where you are along this project or this initiative, right? In addition, you can still read these milestones. And so these milestones for us are tied almost directly to our business goals. So if you remember my quick and dirty little tree of like big goals, and then our initiatives, and then our projects and epics, these tie directly to the goals. So you can see how each of these user story maps or these story maps kind of get us to that point. We wanted to use these stickies also. One of our challenges was being able to show scope, right? And to show some of the complexity into accomplishing some of these epics or these big projects. And so any stakeholder could come here and say, oh, it's not just building email verification. We have to build a system. We have to send the verification email. We got to display a modal. We've got to resend verification. So they can kind of get an understanding like, oh, it's not just email verification. It's all of these other things. And that's a very important thing because it can help create some empathy, right, for stakeholders when you're going to those meetings or you're going to go talk and say, well, we kind of ran into a little bit of an issue here. We're blocked on this. They can understand why. It's not just as simple as slapping something up on a web page. There's something much more complex going on. We like to use the columns as they pertain to our user personas, but when it comes to us tracking things like our operational initiatives, for example, a lot of our technology is based in artificial intelligence. And there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of policies going on about some of the ethical challenges around AI. Well, we're one of those companies that we want to bake that in to begin with. We want bias to be something we recognize in our model right away. And so in order for us to do that, we want to build a framework and build a policy around how we tackle the big ethical challenges. And so this is a huge initiative for us, right? Especially with all the things going on in the world around AI. And so the columns could also just be sections, right? So this is our ethical vision for our artificial intelligence, for our models. And then this is what our ethical visions will be in terms of the company and what our practices are in our human code, which if you're ever interested in reading our human code, it's linked on our site, gosesh.com, because everyone wants to go Sesh. Let's see, what are some of the other ones? Lack of detail. Yes, okay, so stakeholder updates, asynchronous stakeholder updates. Usually with a Gantt chart, there's not a lot of detail. And so if they see something's not really moving or getting approved, they'll probably ping you on Slack or send you an email or call you into a meeting and want to talk to you for 35, 40 minutes. But if you give them access to the Miro board, say, for example, our CEO wants to write an investor update, he doesn't necessarily have to ping me. He can just go straight to the Miro board. I keep it up to date, and he can see exactly where we are with our projects, with our plans, with our initiatives, and be able to write that without needing my help. Unless he has a question or wants some screenshots or some user flows to kind of spice up the email a bit. Any questions so far? Okay.
You do bring up a good point, Jen, is that below where Jen's presentation is, I should have shown this before, we said we were going to. So I'm just going to bring everybody to me one more time here. Below Jen's presentation here is a Q&A spot. So if anything that Jen says stirs something in your brain, you want to get an answer to it, come on down here, grab a sticky, write your question, and then when she's through with the presentation, we'll come back through and make sure that those questions all get answered.
Cool.
Okay.
Just want to make sure I'm not moving too fast. I've had a lot of coffee today, so.
That's right.
All right, so let's see, difficulty tracking progress across multiple teams. So yeah, so if you wanted to scale out a bit, you can kind of see where that progress is. We're using the progress bars. What I really like about, and to touch on the changing scope, is these grids are really easy to add columns to. So if you're missing something or you need to add something to a project, you can quickly just add another row or add another column. Or if you actually have to remove some things because you may not hit an important deadline, or certain pieces are no longer valid, you can quickly, as they showed you in the pro tips, you can duplicate that, sort of move it out, and then go in here and remove the pieces that no longer apply, and then boom, it's updated. You don't really have to do much else than that. They make it really simple, very easy to manage. So one way that you could do that in here is if you had multiple people that were working on one project, instead of these being personas, these could be your engineers. So we could have Rob, the engineer. We could have Kate, our engineer. And then maybe we could have, I don't know, Bob, Rob and Bob, right? They like to pair together. That's another way that you could show what each individual is working on. And then by leveraging the color coding, you can see, okay, so Rob is actively working on receiving the email, and Kate has finished setting up Stripe for subscriptions. So I think I answered just about all of those challenges and showing how you can use this roadmap. But what is, I think, one of the cool things about this template, the coolest thing is how flexible it is. So this was probably the most fun part of the contest, was when we were swarming to figure out all the different configurations that we could have with this roadmap. So you could start off with just a dual track, tracking 2 initiatives, 2 projects, 2 teams. Very simple implementation, but you could also build upon this and adding more tracks below it, like we have for 4 tracks, 2 maps, right? So you can track if you have multiple teams this way, and still be able to track everything across that timeline of that initiative. Or if you want to just split things out and have it on single tracks, because it's just a little bit easier to read and you can add some notes or whatnot, you can also do it this way. And for those people who maybe are feeling a little uncomfortable because they like the concept of being able to see sequenced events or sequenced projects, like you have to complete project A before you can even start on project B, you have the ability to do that with this map as well, by sort of aligning your user story maps in the sequence that they have to be completed, right? But still, we're not saying, okay, this is going to take 4 weeks. We're saying this is the order that we are planning to complete things in order to achieve our milestone or our business goal. It's a super simple template, so there really isn't that much more to say. So I'm happy to jump to Q&A. Unless there's another challenge or other challenges you guys want me to go through and explain how you could solve it using this template.
Awesome. I know we did have a few questions pop up down below, but while we're looking at the template, did anyone feel like coming off of mute to ask a question? No problem if you don't. We'll transition to the Q&A period, but certainly we welcome live people to ask questions. Okay, let's go see what we got. Oh, we got about 5 questions. Look at this. Annie, do you want to take us away for number 1?
Sure. Kim, the first question was, any integrations with third-party tools that you're using?
Outside of Miro?
Mm-hmm.
Third-party tools. I'm not quite sure. Third-party tools for accomplishing what?
Good question.
Good question.
Yeah.
Feel free to update the sticky.
Just to jump in, if whoever asked that is wondering if we use any additional integrations to build this, no, it's Miro only.
Okay. Oh, any third-party tools with Miro? No. This is just pure Miro.
Okie dokie.
Yeah.
Right on. And maybe just as a bit of information for folks who might not know, in the Miro menu on the left side, if you pop open the ellipses, you can say there's a bunch of apps that are integrated natively, like the icon finder and the Google image search, and then you can click on get more apps. and be blown away by the number of integrations that are constantly being added here. So everything from Google Drive to Jira to Azure, and ones I've never even heard of and need to explore because they're probably really cool and I'm missing out. But there's a fantastic number of integrations here to check out.
Cool. And our next question, how do you handle version control?
Version control of the roadmap.
Yeah, of the board. Yeah.
Okay, so typically we don't create multiple versions of the roadmap. It's a living, breathing documentation of work that's been done, work that we're currently doing, and work that's coming up. So we don't really version that. But if you wanted to show versions of, say, you're working on an API and there's different versions that are coming, sort of different, coming down along the roadmap as you're continuing to develop, you can easily add those notes or make mark of that in the grid title or in the sticky column labels or also in the row labels.
Great. And our next question is, can you describe how you use synchronous and asynchronous features, in your template?
Right. So there is that risk that anyone can come into the roadmap and make changes without you knowing. And that's part of the whole reason why we tried to build trust. It's good to set an owner of your roadmap. We refer to them as artifacts because it's something kind of tangible that we share and use every day. I am the owner of our roadmap, and so I'm usually the one who's making all of the changes, but the changes that I make are through collaborations with the rest of the team. And so every day I just make a habit of it to go in, check my backlog in Pivotal Tracker, and then go to the roadmap and update it based on what's going on with the engineering team and how much progress they're making in the backlog.
So do you find, to expand on that, do you find that you're using different permissions then with the team, or do you share it like everybody has edit access, or like you say, you just leave it open and everybody just knows you're the owner?
We are a very rare team that we have a lot of trust with each other. And so if someone does mess with my roadmap, I trust that they will own up to it and I will forgive them immediately. But if you do have that concern that you can't trust everybody and they don't know the magic undo keys, I do recommend that you limit edit access to those who can just view versus those who have the ability to edit. Highly recommend it.
Fair enough. Thanks. Any particular reason why you use grids instead of Kanban?
I love the grids because for a couple of reasons. It's really easy to add and remove rows and columns. It's almost mindless in doing it. They also auto adjust as I'm adding stickies or removing stickies. And that just makes it a lot easier than having to continually adjust things. With a Kanban board, it would be more, Kanban for us morally communicates where a task is in its process of ideation to sort of completion. This is kind of a higher level of looking more at the project and the epic levels and the initiative levels of the work. And so we needed to see it more in a timeline so that we can anticipate, okay, next week we're gonna work on this epic, and then, or not next week, sorry, but the next epic after we complete this one is going to be this, rather than, trying to manage cards that in a board that's more to display where they are in their development or work in progress.
Fair enough. Another one here, so awesome and logical. Is your company hiring?
We're always open to conversations. Always open to conversations, yes.
We've got a few more questions now. So do you export the board as images to keep a history?
We do for other important boards where we're documenting things like user flows. That's actually a really good recommendation, but seeing as we use this roadmap more as like living, breathing documentation, we expect that it's going to change. And so it doesn't make sense to save old versions of it.
Right. Do you use this in daily stand-ups?
Yes, we do. Not necessarily in the stand-up part, but right after stand-ups, we'll have grooming, where we'll go through stories and talk about, oh, hey, by the way, we have to reprioritize this epic because of this need or because of this requirement. And so that's exactly when I'll pull up the roadmap, I'll have everything ready to go. And it's that great visual reference for anyone on the team to say, okay, now I know, this makes sense. So yeah, we do use it a lot in communicating reprioritization and changes in our roadmap. Mm-hmm. I also present it every week in our weekly team demo. And that's when everyone on the team has some time to present work that they've completed and really cool stuff they're working on that week. And I always show the roadmap because I'm in there every single day. And it's always a good touch point to say, hey, here's where we are, and here's what we're doing next, and here's what's changed, and here's what's new.
Cool. Do you ever use this for brainstorming?
Yes, yes. Those user story maps are critical because usually what we do, our processes will start with sort of like a brain dump, and we'll just go onto a board and we'll just throw a bunch of stickies and we'll kind of affinity map them. And from there, I can start to pull product requirements and business requirements, and I'll start to build that user story map, that grid in my head. Mm-hmm. And so when I get to the roadmap, and I get to the place where it's sort of my playground and I'm putting these user story maps together in preparation for moving them down and actually prioritizing them in the roadmap. It's a great exercise for brainstorming. And then our team will always go back to those grids and just kind of refine and say, okay, well, we're going to change this. We're not going to do that. Is this really what we want to do? Because oftentimes we'll say, okay, this is our MVP. And then time goes on and we're like, oh no, we gotta get some stuff, remove some stuff because we have to get it live. And so, yeah, we'll always go back to it for brainstorming different things.
Yeah. Yeah, I like what you're saying, because it sounds to me like then you've got that whole kind of history, you know, how it came all the way through to get to your requirements that you can actually trace back kind of where it originated from.
Yeah, yeah. I'll do that thing a lot where I'll duplicate the grid and then I'll adjust in the new grid what is being removed, right? And then I'll either prioritize that later in between other epics or initiatives. And so that I'm maintaining that one grid, and then I can just sort of like remove what's been removed and
yeah, you don't lose all that. Yeah, that's a really good point. So Jonathan, I think that's all of our questions, unless some folks in the audience have any more.
Yeah, you can feel free to put them in the Zoom chat, put them in the Miro board, or this is the time to come off mic and share some of your personality with us. Maybe what we'll do is just let folks know about the kind of the way we would typically close out these sessions, but then we'll stick around until another about 10 or 12 minutes and have a continued discussion. How would that be?
Sounds good.
Okay, so down below where we were just having that little Q&A, and thank you so much for all those great questions. We'd love to get your feedback on this particular session. You can wait until the end to do it. You can come back later to do it, or you can just do it right now. I'm not going to pull everybody to me because I see people already working, and that's just going to pull them away. So if you have any trouble finding that, just raise your hand. We'll figure out the best way to get you down here. Forget, I'm going to pull everybody to me. I'm so sorry. This is where the retrospective is. So yeah, you can let us know what you felt went well, what could be better, and what should come next. If there's any topics or anything you'd like to see us cover in particular. And as we said, we're always looking for new and great speakers. So if that is you, then drop your name and email in the box here. Let us know you'd like to contact us, and we'll contact you. And as folks are kind of thinking about that, we always like to draw attention to a couple of key links. If you're a Miro user, a new Miro user, you want to be aware of these. Number one is the Miro community, community.miro.com. When we started doing these user group events, we maybe had a couple of people in the community, and now just over a year later, it's 16,500 members and growing every day. That's a great resource for asking questions, troubleshooting, and getting connected with cool people, right, Karsten? I caught him off guard. But I just met Karsten a week or two ago, just through the Miro community.
I can multitask,
That's
write
right.
post-its and talk at the same time. No way.
So the Miro community is a great place to sign up and learn a bunch of new stuff. There's also some contests and things like that specific to the community that come up from time to time. So like hackathon type events. The next one is events.miro.com, and hopefully that's how most of you found this event in the first place. You can find events there for the virtual or live user groups that come up. Like we said earlier, we host one of these virtual user groups in the North American region once a month. We also have the APAC region. Australia is up and going now. We have the European region, the EMEA region, and Latin America now. So it's crazy. It's just growing like hotcakes, and it's all because of us, the cool users who make it run. So way to go, everybody. And the last link, of course, once again, hopefully you knew because you looked up Jen and Sesh's awesome template, is in the Miroverse. So one of the absolute coolest things about Miro is that there's so much user-driven templated content out there that when you're starting a new project, you want to create an event, you want to have a cool little activity, you don't need to create it from scratch. You can go into the Miroverse and for free download hundreds of templates. There's also templates baked right into Miro on the left-hand menu if you're looking in the Zoom screen. There's a lot of great stock templates for dots, for ice breaking, ideation, all that kind of good stuff. And then you go into the Miroverse and it's almost like just a level deeper, a little bit more specific in the use cases, but still totally customizable and absolutely fantastic. So go check out the Miroverse if you want to see all that great new user-driven content. Can't recommend that enough. Okay. And that is kind of the end of our formal show. So if we want to slip into the informal portion, we would welcome anyone to come off mics and share a thought, a parting message, any additional questions for Jen or the other Sesh team members that are here. It'd be fascinating to hear from any of you. Or any of Jen's team want to come on and tell an embarrassing story about her? Or
Where do I start? I'm just kidding.
I will speak up and spare Jen being roasted. I was curious, what else? I mean, that's such an amazing roadmap. What else do you use Miro for?
What don't we use Miro for?
Yes, the answer. That was the answer.
Go for it, Sierra.
I was going to say, if Corey wanted to take this on, he had a good laugh on that.
Sure. So we use it for just about everything. But one of the things that we've found really interesting is one of the things that we create as part of our product are these conversations. So we use a tool which is like almost like a survey tool, creation tool, to create these surveys, but they're not really surveys. They're sort of simulated conversations, and we've found that we developed a template in Miro that allowed us to map all of those interactions, which can be very complex interactions. If you imagine that, somebody can answer in some way and there might be 5 different things that they might answer, and that could lead to different flows in different directions. And we've created what has now become an extremely robust tool for creating those flows inside of Miro, and then being able to translate those to the actual tool itself. And so that's like one of the use cases that we've found is really interesting. And over time, it gets more and more complex as we build onto it, because every single time we use it, we find patterns emerging. And that's something that we've found now is really a core part of using Miro, is that as you use it, it's to actively look for patterns that are emerging, and then keeping a template version of everything. And there's updating that template all the time, so the template becomes more and more complex. And then adding to that template information that allows somebody who's new to the team or new to the company to be able to look at that template and understand what it is and take it on and use it. So Miro that's one of the use cases, one of many. But that's a really good one.
Seeing the patterns visually is,
Mhm.
you cannot do it in any other way that I've ever seen. Not as effectively. That's
Yeah.
the biggest, oh man, it's so good.
Yeah.
Another major way we use it on that note actually is in marketing. We use it to lay out all our user flow from end to end, what we call our happy path, right? From the first touch point that the user has outside of our website with the product through all the way to retention. And I've been in marketing for over 13 years and I've never been able to find a way, especially because there are so many different departments working on various parts of marketing, to really visually lay out exactly what is happening and then be able to quickly identify the areas in which we're seeing drop off and where we can optimize. So it's a really, really, and actually our incredible UX designer, who's also on this call, took a lot of elements from that roadmap that everyone saw today and integrated that into this flow. So into the marketing flow I was speaking to.
Yeah, you
And I
can
think
thank the beautifulness of the roadmap to Serena. She's fantastic. Yeah, like this was a brainchild of all of us. Like I said, we're a highly collaborative team, and so you should see the original roadmap. It's kind of hideous. We had to delete it. But but with the help of Corey and Sierra and Serena, it became this beautiful thing that we could have never imagined. And it's just brings us a lot of joy to look at it.
what's interesting is that the design elements that emerged in the roadmap we now use them across all of our boards. And so that creates a natural branding to what we do, where the colors are reused and the same elements are reused in different ways and so on. So it's nice to create a coherence within the company, because I mean, it's so often that we spend so much time creating tools for our customers and for our people external to the company, and we spend a lot of time making them beautiful, and then the people who are actually looking at screens all day long, or us, have the really ugly chunky things to work with. And so this way we now have actually a bit of beauty and coherence and so on with our internal tools, and that's also thanks to Miro. I mean, the one thing I wish Miro had was easier sort of templates, things that you can update one place and they update in a lot of other places, right? So that it's sort of linked instances of things. That would be really a useful addition to Miro. But you know, what I love is that being able to suggest these things and they actually get built over time.
That's right. Yeah, that is
I
right.
started using Miro when it was real-time board in like 2014, when it was, you know, like very early days, and it looked very different.
Yes. It explains why the backups of boards are .rtb.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of people might not know that or care. So there.
But I love that even back then when we made suggestions, they were taken into account and built out.
Yeah, the Miro community, just as another plug for that, has another area to recommend improvements, and then you can get the community to back your ideas by voting on it, and that seems to make it to the top of Miro's list a lot quicker. So we've seen a few improvements squeak through based on what people have said in there, and it's just a responsive way that Miro seems to fly, which is great. They realize, I believe, that this is all going to be a user-driven tool, and while design sprints might be one natural fit for it, it's literally endless. And I say this all the time. It's the limits your imagination. If you can imagine it, you can pretty much get it done in Miro and have a good time doing it. All right. Any other? Oh,
yeah, one more thing.
Yeah.
I think something that really speaks to Miro, and I know we just keep talking about how great Miro is, because it is really great, is our engineering team just independently started using it to document really complex flows between multiple systems, even external systems, third-party systems outside of our own. And the flows and the documentation they created are just really beautiful, with very minimal effort. And so it really speaks to the tool that they would pick that up independently without anybody kind of forcing them to do so, and just naturally create this beautiful documentation that now we can share amongst the company, and we can all, again, have that level of transparency into like, oh, this system's way more complex than I thought. But it also gives us the ability to say, oh, well, I think we could optimize this, or, this looks like it's really kind of messy. Let's clean that up. So.
Yeah, I think a lot of Miro users have a similar story. We had a few VMUGs ago, we had Robert Johnson on speaking about how he went from using Miro on his own to introducing it to one of his colleagues, and then that spread to 4, and then the whole department's using it. And your boards, I think, as Corey was saying, it starts simple and ugly, but it works. And then over time, you just get a little bit better, and all of a sudden you're creating some real beautiful things that also are very functional. They're more functional than beautiful, but the beauty is it makes it easier to look at, easier to understand. You see the highlights of what is and isn't working for you. And I don't know, that's something that I realized I had been missing most of my career, is that level of shared understanding visually on the board. Everyone sees it, everyone can agree or disagree, and we can have those conversations. Love it.
My gracious, John. Good segue. Nice recap.
It is a pretty good recap, yes.
Yes.
Okay, well, we're happy to stick around if anyone else wants to get into a discussion or talk about anything, but that will be the end of our regularly scheduled programming, right on time. I love getting that done. Thank you so much to Jen and to all the Sesh team for coming and sharing. And with everything you've talked about, there's no way we're not going to be coming back asking for a demo of different things that you've been doing, because why wouldn't everybody want to see what you're up to in this realm? So if that's okay with you, we'll be in touch. And other than that, thank you also to everybody for showing up once again. It's just so great to see both the familiar and the new faces, and we hope to see you at the next one next month. So thanks so much, and have a great day, evening, morning, wherever you are.